Thanks for joining me. In this video, we're going to dive deeper into tips and techniques and my approaches with the Pilot Parallel Pen, which is something that a lot of people have been really interested in. So I hope to touch on some core elements of things that I think about that I think will help you as you learn this new tool. So to start, let's talk about the Pilot Parallel Pen. This is a really great tool that I've learned to love, and it's become kind of an extension of me. I pretty much only use the 6mm. Of course, the surface you draw on is critical, and I've come to find the Canson marker paper is perfect for this pen. In the previous video, I talked about the calligraphic mark making of the parallel pen. I focused on the C and the J marks, which are these curving, sickle-shaped marks that you make with the pen. They become kind of like a standard for my drawing language. So let's take a moment to get to know this pen a little better. The Pilot Parallel Pen is originally designed for calligraphy, and I think it's a really, really great idea to practice with it in the way it was designed to be used for writing. This gives you a great understanding of what the pen can do and what it likes to do. From that point, you can just start exploring, just making marks all over a bunch of sheets of paper. Again, you're just playing with a new tool right now, so enjoy the process. Using the Pilot Parallel Pen is more like using a brush than really any other drawing tool. You want to turn the pen in your hand as you draw. I found this to create a lot of wonderful marks. I really encourage you to practice with this and not to underestimate this seemingly small tip. In my opinion, line weight variation is one of the things that makes drawing so wonderful to look at. The eye delights in a mixture of large and small marks, broad and fine lines. You'll notice those C and J shapes starting to emerge. The next element I wanted to talk about was drawing the negative space, the absence, as opposed to the physical form. This drawing is a good example. If we look at the rib cage, you can see that this is just a mixture of dark marks instead of drawing each individual rib. You can see here in slow motion a little bit how I just roll down the form, creating these black marks, leaving the white space as the positive. In this way, you can get a much more organic and natural feel as opposed to drawing each rib with line. Another thing about the parallel pen that I think we all love is this raking line, but it's good to understand why it is so appealing. You can create very quickly these small parallel lines in one mark. It's almost impossible to get with any other tool. Okay, the next thing I wanted to touch on is a tip for indication of texture on a turning form. It's a very valuable thing to understand, and allows you to indicate texture on a form in a variety of media. Basically, as you have a form turning away from light into shadow, you create an area of halftone. And the key point here is that it's in this area of halftone where you can focus on the shorthand indication of texture. This tentacle is a good example. Basically, it has a texture surface of these suction cups. And as the form rolls around into darkness, we want to illustrate those suction cups in that small area, making sure that it's represented there in the halftone. And then you want to clearly echo it in the silhouette, and your mind's eye will fill in the rest. Let's expand on this a little bit. Here we're looking at the basic form of a cylinder. We have a light about here. We've got an area of light, halftone, core shadow, reflected light, and a halftone on this side as the form wraps around. Now if we lay that form down and give it some texture information, you can see how I'm focusing on the area of the halftone to illustrate what that texture is, and making sure to echo those forms on the edge and silhouette of the shape. And why does this happen? Basically, the light is hitting these edges and casting these shadows until it wraps around in a total shadow, in which case you can just push that all into black and design a really interesting shadow shape in your painting or drawing. And over here, as the object starts coming and pointing towards the light is hitting these points and dropping off into these valleys, and you just don't get a harsh pattern of light and shadow. And having these areas in full light and full shadow, it conveniently allows us to omit information. So in pen and ink, as the light hits this form and turns like this, these small areas are picking up light, casting shadow until it rolls around into total darkness. All right, why don't you join me for a drawing, and we'll do this in real time, and I'll kind of highlight some things that I think about as I'm drawing. Won't be a lot of talking in this part of the video. I hope you just sit back and relax and enjoy. I've been kind of thinking about masks and what they represent, and I thought I would just let that be kind of a rough idea going into this sketch. You might be curious what I'm thinking about while I'm drawing, this drawing in particular. I'm thinking about the masks we wear and the things we hide, the many faces of vulnerability and self-consciousness in a world that is always judging. Do we sometimes sit precariously on our own islands of self-doubt? That's what I'm thinking about. A viewer recently asked me about learning anatomy, and it's a great subject, and I think I want to do a whole video on it. What I tend to focus on is the believable indication of anatomical landmarks. This comes from studying anatomy and learning about what muscles do, and then using that information to have a little bit of freedom with exaggeration and distortion, um, and being able to play with the anatomy a bit while still maintaining enough believability so the viewer doesn't disregard my anatomy. You might be wondering why I don't have a sketch or an underdrawing. And I realized at some point it was confining to me, and it prevented me from accessing the flow state when I had a drawing I was following. This is a blessing and a curse, to be honest, and could be the content for a whole nother video as well. My drawings tend to have a large kind of iconic shape design to them. I like this graphic approach a lot, And like I've said before, I take a lot of inspiration from letter forms and numbers, and you can sometimes see that in the overall shape of the drawing and the eye movement. As I'm approaching the end of a drawing, I really like to check for these things. Please let me know in the comments if you found that helpful and if you'd be interested in learning more about some of these elements. And please like and subscribe and check out some of my other videos if you're interested. Share with your friends, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.